Welcome to the Heritage Show. Today, I'm deeply honored to welcome Dr. Dina Glouberman to the show. Dina is a world-renowned psychotherapist, author, and pioneer in ImageWork. She co-founded Ski Rose Holistic Holidays, one of Europe's first alternative retreats, where thousands have experienced life-changing transformation. She's also the founder of the Aurora Center in Italy, where she trains therapists and coaches in her ImageWork method. Dina's work has made a profound impact on me personally. When I was recovering from burnout, her book, The Joy of Burnout, completely changed the way I saw my experience. It helped me shift my perspective, seeing burnout as a powerful turning point towards transformation and truth. In a way, her work saved me. And now, years later, I'm learning directly from Dina herself to master the powerful tool that helped me heal, ImageWork. And I'm applying it with my own clients to help them overcome burnout. This episode is part one of a two-part series with Dina. In this conversation, we will explore how to truly understand burnout, what it is, how to self-assess, and how it differs from depression. Dina will also share her unique approach to radical healing, including her famous golden goose metaphor and the first steps anyone can take to start reclaiming their energy and life. And because image work is best understood through experience, Dina will guide me and you through a live imagery exercise so you can feel its power for yourself. I'm thrilled to have her here to share her wisdom. Let's dive in. Hello, Dina. Welcome to the Heritage Show. It's such a great honor to have you here. Thank you.
Hi, Ling. It's great to see you and to be with you. I'm very excited about this.
You are personally so important to my burnout recovery, including the book, The Joy of Burnout.
Yes.
So today it's a conversation that I have been looking forward to and very personally to me, not only because of the burnout recovery journey, but also because this is my current mission and my work as well.
Great.
So I will jump right in. First question, talking about this book, The Joy of Burnout.
Yes.
And this title can sound a little bit controversial. I wonder, how come you wrote this book, the title, and what is your work that you're doing and the impact that you're hoping to leave to this world?
Wow. Where will I start? I've been thinking about this idea of what is your main principle, what impact do you want to have? And I think on a deep level, I've always looked for truth. And truth has a lot of meanings because in the everyday world, we carry truths that come from the culture, the society, our family, and so on. And sometimes that takes us a long way, and sometimes it isn't any good for us anymore. And because it isn't our truth and it isn't up to date with where we are right now. So I'm really interested in helping people to see where they are. And myself, anything I do with other people, I do with myself as well. Everything I talk about in the book, I learned from working with myself as well as interviewing other people. You know, there's a kind of a feeling we're all in this together. We're all doing this difficult journey called life, and we all sometimes feel alone. And I'm kind of saying, you aren't alone. You haven't done anything wrong. If you're stuck or in trouble, there is a way forward, and I'd like to help you. And it's something like that. So how I help people is by helping them to find out what pictures of themselves or the world or their understanding of who they are guiding their life, maybe in the wrong direction. If you've ended up somewhere you don't want to be, then your pictures are guiding you in the wrong direction. And so I need to help you to go deeper, to find out what is going on, what is driving you out of your awareness, bring it up to the surface, and transform it in the light of who and what you are now and what you really need. So with burnout, for example, you know, when I started reading about burnout, I found it was all about work-life balance and you're working too hard and this and that and the other thing. But I knew that I had burnt out. And I knew that wasn't why. I'd worked too hard my whole life. And, you know, it couldn't be that it was work-life balance. I never had any, but I didn't burn out. But the moment that I came to the end of a particular road and then said, I'm not ready to acknowledge that because something has come up. And I always say, something comes up that is dripping with everything you're addicted to. And then you say, this last time. So you push yourself in the old direction and then you burn out. And that's what happened to me. I pushed myself beyond where I should have been, and then I burned out. So what is the joy of burnout? Well, you know, what I believe, we need to live with our joy. We need to be in touch with our joy. And burnout is joyless. And why it's joyless is because we have stopped listening to the whispers of our soul. We've stopped being in contact with who we really are. We're living a false life, a life of shoulds. It could be fear of being a failure, let's say, or fear. It doesn't only work. I mean, I have someone in my book who burnt out in a relationship, fear of being on the shelf on her own. And so we're living in that way. We've lost our joy. And I believe that our being, by stopping us, has kind of stood up for joy and said, no, I'm not going to let you live this way anymore. And so I feel also personally that burnout protected me, because if I'd pushed myself any further beyond where I could be in contact with my joy, I might have had something more serious. I might have had a heart attack or, you know, and so I feel that burnout stopped me and said, no, that's as far as I'm going to let you go.
Yeah.
And then my view is that what many people do is they go, they say, doctor, make me better so I can go back and do the same thing. And my view is that what I call radical healing, that I don't want the old show. That's brought me here. I need to find out where I am now and what I really want and need. And this can take time. And sometimes you have a lot of time because you're burnt out.
Yeah.
You can't do much else.
Have to stop.
And in the end, I found that people that took this radical healing found their joy again. So it does work. And I think living without joy isn't a good life.
Yeah, so true. I feel what you just described was so profound, so powerful. You mentioned there about when we lost our direction and not following our heart true calling, it's when we start to going on the direction of burnout. And this mindset of I should, I must, I have to continue. And the fear, plus this fear of what if I fail, if I choose a new path? What if I get judged? What if I, perceived as not successful? All of this really resonates with me because I had gone through exactly the same process.
Yeah.
I hear all the keywords in my journey. I believe among a lot of others who had gone through and recovered from burnout. And I love you highlighted in the end, burnout is really not the end point, but a starting point for transformation, for renewed, fulfilled life.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you a story that I have in my book, but I think it really shows you what happened. When I was in college, I had a very interesting professor, and he, in a way, was doing image work, although he wouldn't have called it that. And he told us to write our obituary. And I wrote my obituary, and in the obituary, I died when I was age 44 in October 1989. I died at this time because I think in the story, I had a car accident or something. Now, the time that I died in the obituary is almost the exact time, I don't know the date, but the exact month and year that I burnt out exactly the same time that the obituary said I died. And I felt that I was confronting transform or die. And if I hadn't transformed, and actually thank you to burnout, if burnout hadn't stopped me, I might have pushed myself one step too far and something much worse might have happened. So I'm so grateful to burnout in a way, because burnout stops you in time, I feel. And if you wait for the heart attack or the stroke or the other things like that, it can be too late sometimes.
Yeah, indeed. I guess that's also why when you gone through burnout, recover, and you come to the end, the other side of the world, it is joy. It is, like you said, reborn. So I'm really looking forward to also dig deeper in some of those topics you touched upon earlier.
Sure.
But to start with, maybe we could first start with burnout itself, because actually a lot of our audience don't even know what is burnout. How does it look like? How can I know if I'm on the verge of burnout? Can you share with us more?
Yes. Well, first of all, I just want to say the word again, burnout, because actually I didn't know. And at the time I burnt out, I don't think it was known. It may have just been coming into focus. But years later, a friend of mine came from Sweden, where they were talking about burnout. And she said burnout was at the top of the news in Sweden. And I heard the word burnout and I said, that's it. That's what happened to me. And many people have this experience, and they use words that, like, I was burned to a cinder, or, they use words like that. So if the word burnout speaks to you, that's the that's the first step, burnout. Oh, yes, I'm not burning through, I'm burning out. Now, the most basic symptom of burnout is that, literally, metaphorically, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, your fire is low.
Yeah.
People feel their fire is low. That means they're exhausted. That means they wake up in the morning exhausted. They haven't got the energy for life. They haven't got the energy for joy. And probably this is the defining characteristic. If you're still very vibrant and active and so on, you haven't yet burnt out. Now, I do want to say that you should stop yourself before you get to this stage. But let's talk about burnout. Okay, so that's number one. A big other symptom, so, it would be good if people would think about this. Is my fire low? And, is there a feeling that I'm deep? It's not just tired. It's like a deep exhaustion, that you're almost not connected to life. Something has gone out of your being, of your life, something like that. The second thing is you feel cut off. You feel cut off from yourself. You feel cut off from other people. You feel cynical. You often find workplaces that have this quality.
Exactly.
People are burnt out. You're chronically angry. You're closed down. You're disillusioned. You've got no pleasure. You're cut off from yourself, from other people, from life. And for some reason, there's reminding me of one of the people in my book who was working in a residential establishment for emotionally disturbed people. And one of the women in this establishment kept threatening suicide. And he said, I realized I was burnt out when I found myself thinking, if she doesn't kill herself by tomorrow morning, I will kill her. So then he said, that's it, I'm burnt out. He realized he'd gone beyond
too far
compassion. He wasn't able to take any more. So that's very classic. Another very classic thing is you do more addictive things. Whatever your addiction is, it could be watching television, it could be alcohol, it could be shopping, it could be drugs, it could be what they call nowadays doom scrolling, isn't it? When you go
exactly, social media addiction is a huge.
Whatever it is that you do, so you don't have to think.
numb yourself. Yeah.
Numb yourself. And that also, so you have to think about people that are listening to this. Have you got more addictive? Not necessarily typical, but not necessarily drugs or alcohol. It could just be television or whatever. That's another one. Another one is doing more and accomplishing less.
Right.
You push yourself. You see, what happens is, and I want to explain this, why this happens. The classic story of what happens in burnout is that when you're wholehearted, you have all the energy in the world, you're productive, you accomplish a lot. People say to you, you're so amazing. How did you manage? And you say, oh, I must have been born that way. I have this high energy and all that kind of thing. But when your heart goes out of the situation, either because you've changed or the situation has changed, then what you need to do, and we talk about that later, is to step back and to look. But if you can't step back, you push yourself forward. By this time, you're divided against yourself. Divided against yourself, you can't be productive in a good way. You're working and working and working, but the real intuitive brilliance that you had is gone. Because all you're doing is pushing yourself.
Yeah.
You're not really in touch with your joy, with your creativity. And you can't be because you're not there.
Yeah, exactly.
So people start working hard, accomplishing less. And the other thing that is very typical is you start becoming ill more often and for longer. And things that you should have got better from really quickly seem to go on and on and on. And I remember somebody going around and giving people talks about health, self-care. And she said, by this time, I had this earache. I was limping. She told me all the things that were wrong with her. And she just kept going. And then she looked at herself and said, what am I doing? And giving them these lessons on self-care. Because the road to burnout is paved with denial. And so people get iller for longer, and sometimes they still struggle their way back at work.
Yeah.
And just to add one thing is that sometimes people want to be ill. And the reason they want to be ill is because they can't say no to what's happening. And I've had people that say, I just dreamed of being in a hospital with the lovely white sheets and being taken care of. But they couldn't say, I'm not going to work tomorrow. It's not working for me. They couldn't do that. But an accident or an illness could do it for them.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's why they get ill. I think we get ill because our resources are so limited now. Our immune system is not working. And so we're, in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear all the symptoms that you mentioned, or the signs you mentioned, that in my last burnout, like physically, like you described, I was totally exhausted, like depleted, physically, mentally, emotionally, just
depleted is a good
depleted.
Word, isn't it?
Yeah.
Depleted,
Yeah. Totally just every morning woke up thinking about going to work. It's so horrible. It feels dread. It feels sad. I'm like, oh, I need to work again. So this feeling then comes as the second you mentioned about cut off, and I lose the connection with myself. I don't go out meeting people anymore. I don't do the hobby that I used to like exercise or singing or dancing. And then I was definitely addicted to working itself. Like I work and I cannot stop working. And I just work nonstop, feel like, oh, this is something I can hold to and make me feel like I'm doing something, I'm achieving something. But exactly as you said, my performance dropped so much because I work more but deliver less. And then, of course, I got ill. I often felt like exactly as you said, which sounds very ironic, but oftentimes I just imagine if I get into an accident that I don't have to work.
Imagine that.
Yes, it was a terrible thought, but I thought, okay, maybe that's the only way I can legitimately stop working.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is so true.
And it's so interesting that you use the word legitimate, because it's not legitimate for me to listen to myself. it's only legitimate for me to have some terrible thing happen to me so that I don't, so that everybody will agree. Poor me, I couldn't show up. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I heard you said this word, denial. It's such a wake up word. I think that's definitely every single one who had burnout has gone through this emotion.
Everybody goes through denial. And one of the words that's really a tip-off for this denial is the word trapped. People often say, I feel trapped. And often it's money or whatever. And as soon as I hear the word trapped, I know they're not trapped. I know that there's something that they could do that they don't dare to do.
Yeah.
And if what you are doing is truly necessary, you don't burn out. See, necessary, our organism understands, our being understands. I know you don't like this, but it's necessary. But trapped is usually a sign. And it's interesting, there's an image, because you know I work with imagery. One image that comes up very often for people is an animal in a cage.
Right.
Now, I have never, ever had someone with the image animal in the cage where it didn't turn out there was a key somewhere, or the door was open, or somehow they weren't locked in. But they always start off in the cage. I'm trapped. I'm in prison. And the only, not exception, but it was a really difficult thing, was a man, I was working in this organization, and he was an animal in the cage. He walked out of the cage, and then he fell asleep. I mean,
so tired. Yeah.
No, not he fell asleep. The lion fell asleep.
Okay.
So the lion got out of the cage and fell asleep. Which Nate said he doesn't want to know. He doesn't want to wake up. And this man then talked about me and said I had done something not good, and he didn't want me to come back because he didn't want to know. He didn't want to know the truth. You know, I said in the beginning, I'm so interested in the truth. Sometimes people don't want to know. I mean, most of us resist the truth as long as we can.
Yeah.
But eventually, you know, you have to face things aren't working. I better face it.
Yeah.
But he wasn't willing to.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree with you what you mentioned about this feeling of, remember that the time when I had burnout, that particular feeling of I had to do this and that there is no way out and there is no other possibilities for me to do. I have to stay here. I have to finish this project. But at the same time, it felt so hopeless.
Yes. Because your heart has gone out of it.
Yes, exactly. I think that's the core of almost every single burnout, is that the heart is not on the path you're going. But your body and what you're doing still on this path that doesn't align with your calling.
Yes. And people go to very great lengths in order to, I'm remembering someone who burned out as a result of a relationship. And her boyfriend lost his job, and then he got depressed. And she did everything for him. She looked up the job. She got the applications. She filled out the applications. The only thing he did was sign them. She organized the interviews. She did everything. And why? Because she was afraid. This is what I said earlier. Her fear was of being on the shelf, of being alone, of not being in a partner. She thought she had to have a partner, a bit like other people have to have a success.
Yeah.
And so what finally happened was he got a job in Paris. He moved to Paris. She went to hospital.
Oh, no.
Because she burnt out.
She burned herself out.
She burnt herself out. He was fine.
Yeah, that's ironic as well. Yeah. And I hear you actually talking about this depression, this word. When I hear you describe the symptom, the signs of burnout, some part, I think, for instance, certain behavior change, maybe not doing the thing you used to like, or feel lack of energy going to work, even maybe emotional depletion. A lot of them sound very similar with depression. So how can we actually differentiate this too?
Yes, it's a good question. Now, let me think how I would. If you came to me depressed and I looked into it, I would usually find something happened. You lost something. You lost some hope. You lost some possibility in your life. Burnout is different. Burnout, you start off very high energy and then you push yourself too hard in the wrong direction and you hit the wall. So the typical burnout people, although they may get depressed, they started off with this very high energy, very high commitment. And so it's almost historically, if I look into how did you get to this place that you feel so low, it's usually somebody who had a lot to give, a lot of energy, a lot, and then bam, hits the wall. Depression has another quality. It's more to do with loss and not being able to see a future. Now, this also happens with burnout. Of course, you can't see the future because you're on the wrong path.
Right.
So you can't see. But it has a slightly different quality. But it is true that people who are burnt out get depressed and that doctors often will give them an antidepressant. And this is why it's so important for us to understand what has brought you to the place you are. Is it loss? Is it, you've given up hope of ever having a good life? And you could have that in both, but you need to see the history of it. And it's a different history.
Makes sense. And as you just reminded us, I think now perhaps it's a good time for our audience to pause the podcast first to check a few items that we highlighted earlier, the signs of burnout, and also look at what happened to cause such a feelings at this moment. And if you're still unsure, I think it's better to find professionals, perhaps psychologists, psychiatrists, and maybe a coach specialized in burnout and this area to support you better understand the signs and how to get support. And of course, there are resources already available online. And also, for instance, the book, The Joy of Burnout from Dina can really help you understand the signs and what to do the first step already. So I would really recommend to get this book if you feel like you need a bit more support and knowledge on this area. And talking about the book, one topic that was brought up and concept was highlighted in the book was radical healing. And I really, really love this because it was the key to help me through the recovery. So could you help us understand this concept better? How does it work?
Yes, I'm very happy to do that. Because I think in a way at the heart of what I believe in, it is really radical healing. So to repeat in a way, what we're saying is wherever we are in our lives, things have happened to us, yes, but also we have brought ourselves here because of the attitudes that we have, which may not be kind of originally coming from us. They may have come from our family, from our bad experiences in life, or from whatever. So we come to a point in our life and then we crash if it's burnout or we get ill. At that point, what do you want to do? You want to get better. Now, what does get better mean? Now, one option is you want to get better and go back to where you were. But where you were was what got you here into this trouble. So it's a short-term solution and it's not revolutionary. It doesn't give you a better life. It just gives you a more normal life, maybe. Radical healing is saying, don't put the old show back on the road. It wasn't working for you. It may have once worked for you. It may have been a wonderful road. It isn't right now. How are you going to find a new way forward that suits the person you really are? And this is what I call really radical healing. And the first step in that is very illuminating. So I call it stop, give up hope, keep the faith. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Stop means stop holding it all together. Stop all that stuff you were talking about. I've got to do this. I must do this. I'll have to finish it. Stop. This is not working for you. Just stop. The second is And to really stop, if we do it for a bit longer, is to only do what we need to do for that day, but nothing that is should, for tomorrow, for the future. Is this important for today? Do I need this to get through the day? That's all.
Yeah.
Let's stop. Give up hope is the really important one. Give up hope means whatever it was you thought was more important than life itself, give it up. In other words, you may never, never, never be successful. You may never, never, never have a partner. You may never, never, never be a good person. If that was your fear, I'd be a bad person. You may never, never, never be this thing that you thought was more important than life itself. And keep the faith means, and realize that you're still okay. That you in yourself are okay. And I talk about the goose with the golden eggs, is that we believe, the old story of the goose with the golden eggs, we believe that the golden eggs are what makes us worthwhile. That's the hope. Here are my golden eggs. This is what makes me worthwhile. I say, give up the golden eggs. I want to get to know the goose.
Yeah.
It's the goose that is of value. And from that goose will come other golden eggs, but different ones.
Yeah.
So stop, give up hope, keep the faith means get out of that force field that you're in that tells you this has to be. And once you've stopped, breathe, gave up hope, then you start to find out that you are of value, that you don't have to achieve in order to be of value.
Yeah.
And that is the first step.
Yeah. Brilliant. I hear those 3 steps so touching because I've been there, I've done that, but still this is a constant reminder for me to not going to burnout again. Because as you mentioned, first stop is really this ability to set the boundary, to say, okay, this is enough for today. I've done the best and I need to rest. I need to pause and to recharge. And then the second is really to let go.
Or you're even being a bit like, I've got to do a whole day's work before I do it. Sometimes you've got to do
full
nothing.
Stop. Yes, of course.
Sometimes you
At some
really
point,
have to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Before the burnout stops you.
Yes, totally. And then the second part on give up hope, I think this is so true of a lot of us just hang on so tight on the idea is I have to do this, I have to achieve this, I must become someone better. And I think let go of those expectations, of those identities that define who we are, define our worthiness is really important, but at the same time, so difficult.
Yeah.
And then,
and you don't have to be better.
Yeah.
You're perfect as you are. That's
Exactly.
the whole point of it.
Yeah. I think to realize we are enough.
We are enough.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing for
Yes.
people.
It's so challenging. Yeah. I think this is actually, to be honest, one of the reasons I had burnout because of this limiting belief of I'm never enough. I always need to be better. I need to go to the next milestone. I had to hit another success. So, but after all, I realized even if I'm not successful, even if I lose everything, I'm still okay. I'm still worthy. I'm still loved. I'm still enough. So I think this is such a growth journey, but at the same time, so difficult. So,
but it's so difficult. Yeah. And I want to say that if we, I talk about how to prevent burnout and what happens if we can early enough stop, early enough before we start having all these symptoms, when we start realizing this is not working and we have to step back and say, what is happening? My heart has gone out of the situation. And then we have 3 choices. One of them is I change the situation. I find a way to make it better for what I believe in. That might be possible. The second one is I change my attitude. I recommit. For example, I'm thinking of someone who was working with HIV and AIDS many years ago when they thought they could stop the HIV. And at that time, there was no medicine and they realized they couldn't. And many of the people in her office burnt out. But she said, no, we have another role here. She recommitted to helping people and their relatives to live with what was happening. So she, and I call that the great yes. She said, yes, I'm still in there, but I've recommitted and I'm wholehearted again. And the third is to leave the situation. If it doesn't work. The reason that people don't do that is because they're afraid. What happens if I step back and think about it? And then I say, I've got to leave the situation, but I can't leave the situation because after all, blah, blah, blah. So we have to have a lot of courage to know the truth. And one of the things I always say to people is, you don't have to do anything about this, but you have to know the truth. You have to listen. Yeah. And if you don't listen, then you're taking yourself somewhere you really don't want to go.
I hear you said this word, listen. It's such an important word that we often neglect the signals our body, our soul is sending us. And exactly how can we listen
and
better?
Other people telling you also, hey, what's happened to you? I'm too busy. Don't talk to me. You're not seeing your friends. So you stop listening to people who you should trust.
Yeah.
Also.
Right. So would you say start to in tune with your body, with your soul, with others' feedback would be the first step we do once we realize perhaps we are at the verge of burnout?
First step is always you have to stop.
Stop.
If you're on the verge of burnout, then you have to step back and consider what has just happened to me. Why has my heart gone out of the situation? What can I do about it? Can I change it? Can I change my attitude? Can I leave the situation? That's the first thing. If you're still not there yet, once you're on the floor, when I was burnt out, I would run a group in the morning. Then I'd go into my room. I was in Greece. I'd close the shutters. I couldn't have any light. I couldn't have any stimulation. I had to just lie there the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So I couldn't reconsider anything because I was gone.
Yeah.
So the idea is if you can do it soon enough, and then you can stop it from happening. Because you can make a choice that restores your joy and your wholeheartedness. If not, if you've gone too far, then you have to, again, stop, give up hope, meaning forget what you think is so important. Nothing is as important as your life. And you're sacrificing your life. And your life is worth living.
Yeah. I hear you talking about, nothing is worth more than your life. And I remember the first time I had burnout, literally had to stop, and I went to a meditation retreat in Burma for a month. And that's how I actually first started the recovery journey, because if I hadn't stopped at the moment,
that's brilliant.
I could not imagine what would happen.
That's brilliant. And tell me, what enabled you to do that? Because that's something that it sounds like other times you couldn't do. What enabled you to stop and to leave the situation? How did you do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I remember that time I was so depleted. My health suffered so much. I had liver problem because of the work environment was so toxic. I had
liver problems.
Yes, wow. I had to drink a lot during the work because I had to go to a lot of business banquet with all the leadership, and the drinking is such a huge business culture in that environment.
Right. Yeah.
And I just couldn't do it anymore. And my body just couldn't bear this anymore. At that time, I had a dear friend. She taught me the very beginning of how to meditate. And I meditate on myself. I realized there is so much inner voice, wisdom, feelings that I need to hear. But
wonderful.
That time I couldn't do. So I decided I have to stop. So I went to the meditation retreat, and that saved my life.
That saved your life. Yeah.
Yes.
Because you could have got very ill with that liver problem.
Definitely.
That's serious.
Yeah. So I hear everything you said was the moment of memory flashing back. And thank you so much for sharing. So Dina, you mentioned so many times the image work, which is something that I'm also in the process of learning and leverage this system and approach in my own coaching practice. And I look forward really to learn and deepen my knowledge and practice with you this year in the course. Can you maybe share more with our audience, because this is a quite a foreign concept for a lot of us?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
why is this so important in the burnout work you're doing?
Yes. Okay. So image work is about working with your inner images, but these are not images that necessarily are there on the surface. So first of all, I would say there's two kinds of images. One is what I call your everyday images. That is the way you see the world. You haven't really even thought about it. You just take certain things for granted. You see the world as a depriving place or a frightening place or a bountiful place, or, your image of the world might be of a tree full of fruits or a tree with no fruits, or, underlying our whole attitude to the world, deep underneath, and I'd say beneath the body, the mind, the emotions, is the image that creates all of those. So, for example, if my image is, let's say, of this tree that has no fruit, or that people, one of the first images I had when I was doing Skiros was people were pulling the fruits off without asking. And so that feeling that I was being used in some way and not respected gave me the physical results, the emotional results, the mental results. But underneath was the image. And why that's important is that if we can get to the image, bring it to the surface, we can then change the image or allow it to change. So we start off with this everyday imagination, which has taken us where we are now. And then we use the transformational imagination. It's the imagination that helps us to transform the images and to show us a new set of images that will take us where we are now. So, for example, I gave the example of the lion in the cage. That's the everyday imagination. This person feels caged like a lion. But as we work on it and we discover that the door is really open, the key is really there, they walk out, the lion walks out of the cage and discovers there's a world out there. Something has changed in their whole experience of the world. And that's what we're working for, is for people to find new possibilities by finding new images of who they are. And I always say, where we've got to is the best we've been able to imagine. Because if we can imagine, we can create it. So we've created this life. This is the best we've been able to imagine. So I'm interested in saying, well, let's imagine better. Let's bring our imagination into the present moment. Let's find out what our imagination, where it could take us.
Yeah.
So, and so people, I meet people all over the world who say to me, when I did that, I changed my job, or I changed this, or I changed. Actually, someone told me he heard me on the radio and talking about burnout and giving an image of burnout. And he said, I'm burnt out. And he quit his job. And then he came to our center in Skiros 15 years later, said, here I am. You changed my life. But he just heard it on the radio. So the image that comes up is very powerful.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. I love you mentioned about how those perhaps unconscious image at a deeper level that can really transform our life. Because I remember learning about also limiting beliefs and how those unconscious beliefs that
absolutely,
they don't communicate us in English. They communicate with us with image. Because those memories, experience, events happen perhaps in our early life, in our past, have repeated, comes in as an image. And then it becomes such a powerful belief, often, of course, help us, but also has the really downside and cost in us. And with the ability to really change the image and rewrite the image could help us change our life.
Yes.
So I love
and
this.
also these images, I mean, I'm thinking of a woman I work with who talks about doing the heavy lifting. She said, I did the heavy lifting there. She kept talking about the heavy lifting, which is an image, but she's not realizing, she thinks she's just saying, and this woman has a really bad back. Every now and then the back gives way and she has to give up all her work and lie down in bed. She's doing the heavy lifting. I mean, until she gives up that image, she's going to have a back problem. So it's not, so I've worked with imagery sometimes with someone who has a physical problem, frozen shoulder. We get to the image and then we transform it, and then all of a sudden it disappears. So it's not just what we do, it's also how we think, how our body reacts. All of these are affected by the underlying images we have.
Absolutely.
And so it's quite exciting when you work with images.
Yeah, totally. Maybe add on one point on the imagination you mentioned, also the connection with our body. I now also compete in freediving. So I use imagination and visualization before and during my training, even during the competition itself. It really helped my mindset, my body to get there, because my brain already visualized all the outcome, of course, also the positive outcome, and help me, my body to relax, my mind to calm down, and really get into that flow mode. So yeah, I love that.
Yes, and I think most sportsmen, successful sportsmen, use imagery. But let me just say something about that kind of image. You could say there's two kinds of imagery. There's a different two kinds than before. There's the receptive and there's the active. So you're using active image. You know what you want. You want to have a successful dive, and so you picture what you want. A lot of the work I do is what I call receptive, where you let an image come up. So, for example, you may think you know what you want in your life. I mean, with the dive, it's quite straightforward. You want to dive the best you can. Okay. It's sort of quite simple. But if I say to you, what do you want to do this year? Okay, then you're looking forward and say, well, I want to accomplish this, this, and this. But then I'll do an imaging. I'll do a visioning. This is more receptive. I'll say, it's the end of the year, and I feel, and I'm giving you two futures. End of the year. Actually, should we do that one right now?
Yeah, that would be lovely, because I think this would give...
It's the New Year's visioning.
Yeah. Yes. It gives audience an example, a really vivid demonstration.
And it's a very useful one. It's very straightforward.
Yeah.
And let me explain. As I said, when you're diving, you know what you want. But what we think we want, it may not be what is really good for us. It may be what we've been taught. That's how burnout happens. You thought you wanted to finish that job, to accomplish, to be successful. Actually, that's not what your being wanted, or you wouldn't have burnt out.
Yeah.
So we need to find out not just what we think we want, which may be taking us in the wrong direction. That's what happens when you burn out. But this is so important. But what really would make you feel happy and fulfilled?
Yeah.
And that might be totally different. So should we try this?
Yes, let's do it. I'm excited.
Okay, let's go for it. So I want you to just close your eyes and just let yourself go and just relax and just step back into, imagine there's a light behind you, larger than life itself. And you're sinking back into that light. And just nothing to do, no place to go. I'm just here with my light, with myself. Present moment, wonderful moment. And now, Ling, you asked to know what you would like for this year, for this future. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to have you imagine a year that ends up feeling bad and a year that ends up feeling good, so that we can find out what is the difference between the two. How you're going to get to the year that you're going to feel good about. And it may surprise you. Are you up for this?
Yes.
Okay. are you willing to just find out what happens and not decide what you want?
Yes,
You're willing to surrender just to see what your imagination tells you?
I do.
You are. Okay. So are you willing to do the unhappy future first? Let's get it out of the way. Okay? And don't worry about negative thinking, because the thing is, if you've seen it, you don't have to have it. If you don't see it, you might just stumble into it. So I promise you, this is a good thing for you. Okay? Are we up for that?
Yes.
Okay. So, Ling, I want you to imagine it's the end of this year, December 31st, 2025, and you're feeling bad, feeling somehow you haven't honored your true self. You're feeling bad. Where are you? What are you wearing? What's the bad feeling? Not what it's about. I just want to get to the, can you imagine that? We haven't done a lot of reading. It's the end of the year and you're feeling bad. What's the bad feeling?
I felt lonely. I feel failed. I felt a little bit depressed in Berlin.
Okay, you're in Berlin, you're depressed, you've failed, you're lonely. And above all, what's the center of that feeling? What's the most important bit of that feeling?
This huge anxiety about the future, like if I can make it.
Anxiety, okay. I feel anxious. Okay, so not feeling great. Now, my next question is, what's the main thing that makes you feel this way? This feeling of anxious, lonely, depressed, failed. What's making you feel like that? What's at the center of this bad feeling?
My business didn't go as my plan, and I could not get the success that I envisioned for myself. I felt like I failed on the new path that I was exploring, and I fear I had to go back again to the corporate world that I initially decided to quit for all.
Okay, so the feeling is I started a new path, I didn't make it, I might have to go back to a world I don't want to go back to.
Right.
Okay, got it. Now, what is the main thing that you did? What's the attitude that you had, the steps that you took that ended you up feeling lonely, depressed, anxious? What was your attitude this year? What steps did you take that brought you here?
The attitude was a lot of anxiety on a daily basis, just worry about if I can make it, if I can get clients, if I can get new projects, and a lot of doubt to myself, to my ability to make it work.
Okay, so what brought you here was the feeling you have to make this work, and maybe you're not good enough to make it work. So you're always anxious. You're always afraid that you're going to fail. You're holding on tightly to something and it's escaping from you. You know, like you have some water in your hands and you hold on so tightly it comes out through your fingers. You're holding on too tight. Okay. Is this familiar? Is this all familiar? You've seen yourself do this before?
Yes, all my life.
All your life. Okay, good. Now, you've seen this. You don't have to have it. Let's come back to the present moment. That's only one possible future. We're going to see another one now. So coming back, stepping back into the light, and what you might do is imagine that you're taking what we call a decontamination shower. Kind of wash your hair, you know, even physically get rid of all those attitudes that have taken you to that place. These so familiar attitudes, because that future, in a way, isn't new. It's a future you've seen before. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you ready for another future?
Yes.
Okay. So here we go. Stepping back in the light, relaxing, nothing to do, no place to go. I'm a free spirit and I'm being taken care of. I just have to follow. I don't have to lead. How relaxing could that be? And now I'm going to invite you, Ling, to come forward. It's the end of this year. It's December 31st, 2025, and you're feeling great. You're feeling great. What's the good feeling? What's the good feeling?
I felt free.
Mm-hmm.
I seem free from expectations, pressure, and those goals and outcomes.
You're free. And how does your body feel?
Feels light and almost as if I want to dance right now and just, move my body and just be free and flow in this life.
Okay. And tell me something else about how you're feeling. Not why, just how are you feeling?
I felt loved, loved by myself, by others, self-acceptance, self-compassion that
So you're
I,
feeling good about yourself, good about how you're treating yourself,
yes.
and free of all that pain. Now tell me, what the center of this good feeling? What makes you feel this good? What's the main thing that makes you feel this good?
Less about the work or achievement, but rather this inner knowing
What makes you feel good is an inner knowing.
of
What kind of inner knowing?
that I'm enough
That I'm enough
and I'm loved.
and that I'm loved
Yes.
as I am.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So this doesn't depend on the business succeeding or failing. This is just
Yes.
a feeling that you're okay.
Yes.
And what did you do differently? This is the $1,000,000 question. What did you do differently this year than the other year? What attitude was different? What step was different?
Really attention to my inner world, to take care of myself, not only physically, but more my soul, my inner voice and wisdom, and honor that truth.
So how did you do that? Because that's very different from the other one. In the other one, you were worried all the time.
Yes.
And you were afraid you weren't good enough and you were going to fail.
Yeah.
What did you do in this picture? How did you manage to stay in touch with this wisdom, this inner wisdom?
Yeah. To honor my boundaries, to really invest in myself, in a sense, to love myself, to be kind to myself, and of course express those to my loved ones. This gives me this sense of being whole, being protected and being supported, and this confidence of doesn't matter what happens, I'm okay, I'm enough.
Fantastic. Now tell me, how's the work going in this picture?
Work is going good.
It's going good.
Yes.
Okay. So it's going good even though you're not worried every day.
Yeah, I think it has its ups and downs, but somehow I think this inner nurturing self helped me show up better at work and, be confident,
So
be
actually, this is
present.
helping you to make work a success,
Yes.
even though that's not your main focus.
Yes.
It's part of loving yourself is doing a good job at work.
Absolutely. It's a different work. It's also work, but that's more essential. My inner work,
But your inner work is more essential. You're
Yeah.
putting yourself first and
Yes.
everything else second, but yourself is someone who's creative and wants to work, and so you're doing that as well.
Yeah.
because it's what you want. And so it
Mm.
comes from another place in you.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And if you could, as this person in December 31st, if you could say something to that Ling who's there at the end of January doing this exercise with Dina, what would you say to her? How would you explain to her what you think is important?
To me right now, sitting here.
Yeah, tell the Ling that is sitting there from the end of the year feeling great.
Yeah.
Tell the Ling of January 24th the most important thing you need to tell her
is to love yourself.
Yeah, call her by her name, Ling.
Ling, I want you to know that the most important thing is to remember to love yourself, to care for yourself, and to put yourself in the front and center of your life, and give yourself grace and be kind to yourself, and everything else will follow with that.
And what if Ling says, yes, but what about the work? You can't just go around being nice to yourself. How about the work? I need to build the business. What would you say?
Yeah, I have the innate, Eileen has the innate motivation, strength, wisdom, and intelligence, and experience and knowledge. Everything she has to.
Tell her.
Yeah.
You have all this.
Yeah, Ling, you have all this, and it's not those things that stops you. And as long as you love yourself, you care for yourself, all of those skills and strengths will be amplified, will be even stronger.
Great.
But you were good enough already, so trust.
You're good
trust
enough
that.
already. Okay, so you don't have to prove yourself.
Yes.
Okay, so Ling, let's come back to the present moment. So we've had breathe and just kind of for a moment reflect on those 2 years we've just had, the difficult year and the good year. What are you noticing?
Different years. What do I notice?
Yeah, the 2 years, one ends up feeling bad, the other ends up feeling good.
There are very different feelings registered in my body.
Yeah.
And the emotions are quite opposite. And one is very centered on this old, let's say, old Ling mindset, and like focus on work and the success and achievement. Another is really focusing on my inner world, the essence of Ling.
The essence of Ling. And does this have something to do with what got you towards burnout and got you out of burnout?
Yes, absolutely.
It sounds familiar.
Yes.
So, but let me ask you, the first future, I want you to acknowledge, this is important, the part of you that wants the first future. Even though it sounds like a bad future, there's a part of you that's leaning in that direction. We all have that part. What is it? What makes you just sort of think, oh, that's the future for me?
I think that part feel familiar, although it's an unhealthy path, but it's the path that I repeated many times in my life, that I felt familiar, and it feels like I can control, because if I focus on that, if I put the work, and then, there might be a good outcome. But that's also a way for me to distract myself from looking inward, from care for myself. And the better future is what's really the essence of Ling truly desire. But perhaps because of the fear, the anxiety, the worries, would sometimes, like you said, tilt myself towards the old path again.
Yes. Okay. So it's very classical that in order to get to the old path, you just have to do same old, same old. It's the old story. And in a way, a bit of you wants that familiar story, and you think you have control, and it's all tried, tested, and proven. Actually, it's led you to burnout, but let's forget that. It's the story that you used to believe in.
Yeah.
And it's familiar. Okay. In order to get to the positive future, you need to up your game, actually. You need to do something a little different. It's a little challenging. So now I'm going to ask you to put, despite the fact that the bit of you that wants the first future, are you willing to go for the second future?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
So let's put the picture of yourself feeling free and happy and all that in a bubble. What are you wearing in this picture? You know, you're ready to dance.
Very flowy, dreamy, alchemist
dreamy. Okay.
dress.
Okay, beautiful. Now I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. The first question is, are you willing to do whatever you have to get to this future?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and what do you have to do? What's the main thing that is a little difficult? What's the main change you need to make?
To nurture myself as a top priority, and instead of put work and success to the top priority.
Okay, so to change your top priority, that's what you have to do. Okay. Are you willing also to accept that you may not end up in that place, but you'll still be okay, that you don't have to have it? You can't make it happen. You don't have to have it. If this doesn't work out, something else will. You'll be okay. Are you willing to accept that?
Yes, I am willing.
You're not all powerful, you know.
Yes. And
I do it. Yeah.
Acknowledge that I need to be a bit more patient with myself.
Yes, good point. Yeah. And because otherwise, if you feel you have to have every day, you say, oh, I'm not putting myself first, I'm bad. You know, I mean, you could get into a bad space that way. So you have to accept, as you say, that's what you are intending to do, but sometimes you may fail at it, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
So I want you to say aloud, I ask and intend for this to be.
I ask and intend for this to be.
And I release it. That means I let go. I don't have to have it. And I release it.
And I release it.
And then I want you to blow that bubble into the domain of potential. We have to blow really hard so you can't see it anymore. That's it. And then I want you to take the feeling, the good feeling from the future, and put it with your hands. Take the feeling from the future, put it in your heart, and feel that feeling right now. Can you feel that feeling? I'm free. I want to dance.
Yes.
How is that?
Wonderful. It's peaceful.
Peaceful. Good. Beautiful.
Thank you. Oh, I have tears in my eyes.
Oh, yeah. And in a way, although you said you're not burnt out, that was a burnout story, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The future you think you want is to succeed in your business. That would have, in other years, led you to burnout.
Yeah.
But what you learned about taking care of yourself also made you better at your work.
Absolutely.
But somehow you had to go around it in another way. You had to value the goose. And then a goose that's taken care of will lay very nice golden eggs.
Yeah, could be a rainbow eggs this time.
Yes, but the goose that you cut up in half to get all their golden eggs, which is practically what we do when we burn out, is never going to give any golden eggs again.
True.
So it's a bad business.
Thank you so much, Dina. I was so touched by this. And like you said, I'm very aware of my old habit, my pattern, and I'm consciously working on avoiding this to happen again. But this is such a good reminder to really choose a different path to show up differently.
Yes.
Thank you.
And what I suggest that you do is that when we finish this and you go home, you sit down, become that positive future person and write a letter to the Ling of today and tell her, and keep the letter because that's important. And I want to tell you, when I did this exercise and it changed my life, was COVID and lockdown came in 2020. And I have been thinking of writing a book about imagery. And at this point, the whole world changed. I couldn't see the future. I couldn't see the point of anything. I couldn't see why anybody would want a book. You know, it was just like the whole world was different, and I didn't know what to do. And so I took down, I've got a CD, which takes me through this exercise. So I took down the CD and I played the exercise and I went through it. And first I did the negative future. And I found myself at the end of the year, I couldn't breathe. I was like, I couldn't breathe. And I said, why can't I breathe? And I said, I'm so ashamed because I've accomplished nothing, done nothing, created nothing. I've just wasted my year. And then I did the positive future. And in the positive future, I was feeling really happy. And I had this book in my hand. And this is the book
I have the same book.
Yes, this is the book I wrote, which I would not have written. And the day after that, I wrote the publishers, you know, applications to publishers. I would not have written it. And it wasn't only the positive future. It was more than that. It was the negative future. I didn't want to end up the year feeling ashamed.
Yeah.
You know. So it's quite different from yours because it's not about self-love. It's about my creativity, which is part of my own self-love. That if I felt I'd wasted the year, I would feel very bad.
Devastated.
You know? So I wrote that book. That's my last book. I'm not writing anymore, but I was happy
Why
to
not?
do that one. Yeah, well,
I would
I
hope
came
to
the
read a
end
new
of that
book.
road. I came to the end of that road, you know.
Thank you so much for joining us in this first part of my conversation with Dina Glouberman. We've touched on some truly profound insights on burnout, self-assessment, and how to begin the journey of reclaiming your energy and life. If you're feeling at the verge of burnout, please don't hesitate to reach out, either to me or Dina. We're here to support you. And if the Joy of Burnout resonated with you, I highly encourage you to get your hands on a copy. It made all the difference for me, and I've left the link in the show notes for you to grab it. Make sure to join us for the next episode, where we'll dive deeper into recovery, self-love, and the role of community in healing. If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to subscribe, share it with someone who could benefit, and leave a review. It helps others find the show and join our growing community. Until next time.